Part 65. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 641. Chapter 641 Hiding My Daughter. MRS Yeah, I also called out MRS yeah out of politeness, but you have to watch your mouth. My daughter should be nice and don't curse her. Oh, there are some people who think too much about reality and are unwilling to admit the truth when it is in front of them. Madame Ye lowered her head and looked at the fingers of her right hand grazing from the elbow of her left arm to her fingertips. Some things were so handy. Suhui felt flustered when she saw her strange expression. Suhui pressed the button beside the bed, and the nurse rushed over quickly. How can you two help me? Nurse, you told me before that my daughter was sent to a premature incubator because she was born prematurely, right? Suhui chose to get straight to the point and asked directly. The nurse hesitated for a moment and nodded. Suhui breathed a sigh of relief and smiled when she looked up at Madame Ye. Listen, my daughter was born safely and is still alive and well. Her smile was a deliberate provocation to Madame Ye. If the baby girl is real or MRS Ye must be irritated by Suhui's words now and furious. But MRS Ye was really not angry at all at this moment. She shook her head and sighed helplessly. Nurse, tell her the truth about her daughter's current situation. The two of them seemed to put all the questions to the nurse. The nurse looked left and right. She thought it was MRS Ye who told Suhui the truth, but as a mother, Suhui was unwilling to face the reality, so she asked her to help testify. The nurse lowered her head in embarrassment and told the bad news. I'm sorry, your daughter stopped breathing last night. Suhui was shocked. She couldn't hold it in any longer and immediately got up from the bed. The surgical wound that has not yet healed seems to be tearing apart. MRS Ye could stand there calmly, looking at Suhui's unbelieving expression but unable to help but feel panicked. The nurse could not stop Suhui and could only follow her. Of course MRS Ye followed closely behind. She wanted to take a good look at Suhui's expression when her hopes were dashed, and she felt very happy just thinking about it. No matter how bad her relationship with Yehantian is, she will never tolerate a mistress who destroys other people's families. Suhui insisted on going to the insulation room. She read all the signs with names, and when she saw someone named Ye, she couldn't help but want to rush in. The nurse quickly stopped her and said, Ms. Su, you can't go in now. Safety measures must be taken to enter, and Suhui is still technically a patient, so she cannot be allowed to enter the pollution-free area at will. Suhui struggled hard. Let me go, I'm going to see my daughter. Ms. Su, your daughter is really not inside, she's already died. The last two words are difficult to say. But Suhui didn't want to listen. You liars, are you ganging up to deceive my daughter? Suhui pointed at the nurse, then turned to Madame Ye and asked loudly, It's you hid my daughter on purpose, right? Suhui suddenly rushed over and grabbed Madame Ye's clothes. Hand over my daughter. MRS Ye held Suhui's wrist firmly and tried to pull her away, but she couldn't pull her away. She then faced Suhui face to face. Her voice was neither loud nor quiet, just enough for the two of them to hear. Madman. Your daughter's death is the retribution of your own sin. What does it have to do with me? I kindly remind you that if you go to Yehantian now, you might be able to see your daughter one last time. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 642. Chapter 642, I fell down and had fetal infection. Just a word of warning to Suhui, finding her daughter is the most important thing now. Yes, I want to find my daughter. Where is the other person? Where is he? I want to find my daughter. Suhui walked around in a panic, and asked the nurse for her mobile phone to call Yehantian. Han Tian, where is my daughter? Is our daughter at your place? Suhui devoted herself to the role of mother as soon as she opened her mouth. The nurse next to her looked at Mrsye in surprise, as if she knew something terrible. It turns out it's not a brother and sister-in-law, but, the fight between the first wife and the mistress? Stimulate. What's even more exciting is that the mistress's daughter died at birth, so these two women are still not allowed to fight. I don't know what Yahantian said to Suhui on the other end of the phone, but Suhui hurriedly ran outside. But her body was already weak and had not recovered, so she fainted due to excitement. Come quickly, the patient has fainted. The nurse shouted anxiously, and the nurses and doctors who heard her came over to help and carried Suhui back on a stretcher. Mrsye did not follow her. She returned to Yejia calmly. After Mrsye got off the car outside Yejia's villa, a car following her stopped. The people sitting in the car were Yezikin and Yewiwei. Yewiwei doesn't know what words to use to describe his mood at the moment. In short, it's fate. One moment they were thinking about the fate of the baby girl, and the next moment they received the news that the baby girl had died. The things they worried about ceased to exist from that moment on. Yewiwei leaned on the chair and said calmly, "Why don't you go in and take a look?" Yezikin shook his head. For her, she needs to be quiet at this time. The matter of mistress's pregnancy finally came to an end, but for Madame Ye, it was not the joy of victory, but proof of her failure as a wife. Even if the baby dies, Mrsye may not really speak out, because it is an indisputable fact that she was betrayed by her husband. What about Suhui? Let her stay here. Yezikin answered resolutely, "No. Suhui can't stay here. After a while, he will find a way to arrange for Suhui to leave." Why was Suhui born prematurely? I fell down and my fetus was swollen. She is really pitiful. I heard that the situation was critical at that time. The doctor asked about keeping the child alive. Yahantian chose to keep the child alive without hesitation. He didn't take Suhui's life seriously at all. I originally thought that because of Suhui's appearance similar to her mother Huakinhui, if Yahantian takes this opportunity to miss her old friend, she may be really obsessed with Suhui. Unexpectedly, Yahantian's ultimate goal was the baby girl. Perhaps it can be said that Yahantian imagined that the baby girl was his and Huakinhui's child. It was originally a matter between the Ye family and his wife, but it happened to involve her mother. Thinking of this, Ye felt a creepy feeling all over his body. She reached out and patted her cheeks a few times to wake herself up. Forget it, that kind of thing has nothing to do with me. Anyway, it has been solved now. I should forget it as soon as possible. Yezikin turned around, touched her head, and said softly, "Don't think about it anymore." What was thought to be a turmoil ended on the day a baby girl stopped breathing. But they were all wrong. This incident did not stop with the loss of the baby girl's life. This accident caused not only stormy waves, but also bloodshed. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 643. Chapter 643 Jumping off the building. Help. You killed my child, go to hell. On a high-rise building, a woman in hospital clothes with disheveled hair was entangled with a woman in luxurious clothes. The downstairs gradually became crowded with people, and all the different comments were drowned out. At this moment, Suhui has pushed Mrsye to the rooftop of the hospital. If you are not careful or use a little force, Mrsye will fall from this tall building. Suhui, calm down. How to calm down? My daughter is dead and you tell me how to calm down, Suhui asked in a hoarse voice, already considering Madame Ye as her mortal enemy. An hour ago, Mrsye received a call from Suhui from the hospital, saying that she was leaving soon and hoped to see Mrsye for the last time. At that time, Mrsye didn't think much about it, thinking that Suhui had recognized the reality and had given up and decided to leave this sad place. But when she entered Suhui's ward, she didn't see a single figure. She called Suhui, and Suhui said she was on the rooftop. Mrsya also thought a little at that time. After going up to the top floor, she stood at the door and did not go out. Unknown to her, Suhui had already prepared a sharp fruit knife and forced her to go out. Stretching her head, shrinking her head, Mrs's calm from the beginning to the current dense sweat from her forehead, showing that she was so nervous. It was only now that Mrsya knew that after Suhui confirmed that the child was dead, she firmly believed that she was the murderer. So the scene at this moment is all because of Suhui's revenge. Suhui, I said your daughter's death has nothing to do with me. Do you think I will believe what you say? A femme fatale, Suhui has lost her biggest support for the rest of her life and is almost going crazy. You wanted my daughter to die before she was born. Who else could be so cruel besides you? The only people I know are you and Yahantian. The more Yahantian cares about that daughter, the less you want her to live. It was you must have killed my daughter, you must pay for it with your life today. Suhui. You have to think clearly, you are still young and you can do it all over again. But if you hurt me, the rest of your life will be ruined. The second half of my life, my daughter is dead, and the second half of my life is over. When Yahantian and Yezikin got the message, they rushed over and saw a very dangerous scene as soon as they broke open the rooftop door. Suhui, please don't mess around. Yahantian stretched out a hand to make a pause gesture. Neither of the two people in front of him is the one he loves, but they are both women with whom he has a lot of ties. Suhui was obviously stunned for a moment when she saw Yahantian coming, but the dagger in her hand was still held firmly in front of Madame Yes' neck. Suhui stared at Yahantian affectionately and said to him, Hantian, this daughter killed our daughter. I want to avenge my daughter now. You should support me, right? She didn't kill my daughter, it has nothing to do with her, just let her go. Yahantian also had good intentions to persuade, but he didn't want to. When Suhui heard that Yahantian was defending Mrsya, she exploded. You actually helped her. Is it because our daughter is dead that you think I am worthless? You are such a heartless and unjust man. Suhui, calm down. If you have anything to do, come here first and we'll talk about it slowly. Just when Yahantian was trying to persuade Suhui, Yezikin quietly walked around. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 644. Chapter 644 Great Maternal Love. Yezikin quietly walked to the edge, climbed onto the railing and hid underneath. There are more than 10 floors of high-rise buildings below, and he is clinging to the railing without any safety ties. The people watching downstairs were nervous and shocked. Because Suhui pointed the knife at Madame Yes' neck, if she didn't look in the right direction when she hit her, it would also be in Madame Yes' hands. Yahantian tried to move forward and get closer while talking to Suhui. Suhui suddenly moved the fruit knife away from Mrs's neck and pointed at Yahantian with one hand, you are not allowed to come over. At this time, Yezikin took the opportunity to sneak attack from behind and knock Suhui and Madame Ye away, causing them both to fall forward. Madame Ye took the opportunity to crawl forward, and Yahantian rushed over to hold Madame Ye's hand. At this critical moment, Mrsya didn't show any pretense and snuggled in the direction of Yahantian. Suhui felt resistance and suddenly turned back after standing up. She happened to see Yezikin jumping in from outside the railing. Suhui is going crazy now. She raised the fruit knife and stabbed Yezikin. Yezikin, who had just jumped in while holding onto the railing, could not resist in time, and a bright red blood stain was drawn on the back of his hand by the sharp edge of the knife. When Suhui raised the fruit knife and was about to stab Yezikin a second time, Madame Ye pushed Yahantian away from her and ran directly in the direction of her son, blocking Yezikin. At this moment, Yezikin was already standing firmly on the edge. He knocked the fruit knife out of Suhui's hand with his bare hands and pulled Madame Ye away. Suhui took a step back. She stood on the edge of the rooftop and leaned back. I saw a blue-white figure falling from a tall building. Everything ended with the sound of falling from the building. Mrsya held Yezikin's arm, looking anxious and shedding rare tears. Yezikin felt heavy. He always felt that Madame Ye regarded him as a to fight for interests, or as Madame Ye's capital to compete with other ladies outside, but he never thought, at a critical moment, his mother, who usually looked snobbish, would step forward without hesitation. I don't want to block the knife for him. If he hadn't acted quickly, Suhui's knife would have almost stabbed Mrs's heart. Chenur, let's go down quickly and find a doctor to stop your bleeding. When Madame Ye pulled Yezikin, her arms and fingers were shaking. Mom, it's just a minor injury, don't worry, Yezikin comforted her. But Madame Ye only cared about his wound, and other things like Suhui and Yehantian were forgotten. There is so much blood left and it hasn't stopped yet. How can I not worry? You are my son. I would rather be the one injured. When Madame Ye spoke her truth categorically, the ripples in Yezikin's heart could not calm down for a long time. When going downstairs, Mrsya still looked back. I saw Yehantian leaning against the railing and stretching out a hand, but he didn't catch anything. His lonely look at this moment was not at all like the cold and arrogant chairman he usually looked like, and his eyes seemed to be staring with a dead look. Jump off the building. The scene of Suhui jumping off the building reminded him of many times when he was young, and the scene where Huaqianhui jumped from the building with tears of despair, all with the intention of dying. At that moment, Yehantian felt a chill running down his spine. Yehantian heard the sound of the ambulance and vaguely saw the people downstairs turning into small black dots moving around. Do you died? Are you dead? Finally, Kixi thought, how about clearing Mrs's name? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 645. Chapter 645 Blood on Hands. Dong dong dong. Yezi ran quickly on the road, which was the road leading to Yes Villa. She came here after receiving the news. Suhui's incident of jumping off a building was filmed and posted online. All three members of the Ye family appeared in the video, which has aroused heated discussion among netizens. The news spread very fast on the internet, even Ye Weiwei, who was studying in G City, already knew about it. She didn't care what happened to Yehantian and Madame Ye. She only saw the report that Yezikin bravely saved people by climbing on the edge of a railing more than 10 stories high without any protective measures. She rushed back as fast as she could, and Yezikin, who had bandaged his wounds, was at Yegia Villa. Mrsya was very anxious when she was first injured. The mother and son went to the doctor to bandage the wound. The wound was not injured, but the wound was quite long. They had to bandage it with medicine to avoid infection as much as possible. Later on, no matter who asked, Madame Ye insisted on taking Yezikin home to take good care of her. Yezikin had a new understanding of Mrsya this time, as if the stern mother image in his memory suddenly had a different personality. Perhaps it's because of the different perspectives on things and the different ideas about people that Yezikin couldn't figure out what was true and what was false for a while. He only knew that the scene of Madame Ye protecting her on the rooftop was deeply rooted in people's hearts. It turns out that maternal love is really great. So this time when Ye Ziwei said she wanted to come to him, he didn't deliberately avoid Mrsya and Yes Villa, but directly called her over. Ye Weiwei hesitated for a moment, but the resistance to the Ye family in his heart was far outweighed by his concern for Yezikin, so Ye Weiwei appeared outside the Ye family villa at this moment. She hasn't been to this place for a long time, and now she realizes that even the security guard at the door has been replaced. But for some reason, the security guard recognized her identity at a glance. However, the security guard did not stop him, but let Ye Wei in with a smile on his face. Ye Wei had doubts in his heart, but his anxiety was even worse. The appearance of Yejia's villa was not much different from what she remembered. She was probably a familiar person after walking on this road. The only thing that happened that night was like a gust of wind. The two security guards at the door stood staring at her back until there was news. Ye Wei didn't know why the security guard let her in so easily. That's because a man who cares about her will take out her latest photos every month so that the servants of the Ye family can remember her and want her to enter them unimpeded. Ye Wei broke into the villa. He didn't ask anything else. He just wanted to know how Yezikin was doing. Elder brother. I saw Yezikin sitting in the living room, as if waiting for her arrival. Brother, I'm here. Ye Wei looked down and reached for his shoes, only to realize that certain things were still deeply etched in his memory and could not be erased no matter what. She just picked up the shoes and realized how natural and smooth the action was. It was not like a guest who needed to prepare or beg someone to change them. Ye Wei hesitated for a moment, then changed his shoes and walked towards Yezikin. Ye Wei saw that the palm of his left hand was wrapped with white bandages, circle after circle, layer after layer. She raised her hands in pain, wanting to touch them but not daring to say, "Brother, are your hands seriously injured?" "Serious. My hand has been medicated, it's fine." "How can it be okay?" "It doesn't matter whether something happens to him or not," Madame Yes' voice suddenly came out. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 646. Chapter 646. Ye only stays at Yejia Villa. Xiao Li, I'm afraid you have forgotten your identity, but you still have the nerve to show up at Yejia Villa. Ye Wei has just arrived, and before he has even said a few words to Yezikin, he is about to be angered by Madame Yes' rude words. Mrs. Yes started to ridicule Ye Wei when she saw him, and she was merciless. But being angry, Ye Wei would never ignore Yezikin's pain just because he was angry with Madame Ye. She raised her head and looked up at Madame Ye, but she did not feel inferior to her. On the contrary, her stubborn and determined appearance can make people feel a special feeling from it. What exactly is it? I cannot express it in words for the moment. At this moment, Yezikin spoke out to adjust the atmosphere and helped Ye Wei out of the situation. "Mom, she is here to care about my wounds. She is my guest. After all, this is the Ye family villa, and he can only choose to persuade Mrs. Ye not to target Ye Wei. As for the dispute between the two, it is not easy to get them to stop the dispute, and it requires long-term planning. Mom, Xiaoli is my guest." When Yezikin patiently repeated it for the second time, it was already the only time in the night that he stretched out his hand. Mrs. Yes seemed to be holding her breath, and simply turned around and left, out of sight. Seeing Mrs. Yes back, Ye Wei smiled happily and put his hand on Yezikin's injury. Her left hand was holding his right hand, and the two of them turned their fingers slightly in tacit agreement, making it look like their 5 fingers were interlocked. "Brother, does it really not hurt? Don't deliberately trick me just to prevent me from worrying." Yes' only cautious gaze fell on his bandaged wound. She didn't know the length and depth of the wound, and she was particularly worried. When will the dressing be changed next time? Hearing Ye Wei's words, Yezikin understood what she meant. He lowered his head and rubbed her forehead. A chuckle escaped from the corner of his mouth. "Don't think about it, I just changed it." "Then tell me what happened today." "You don't even know that when I saw the news in G City, I was so worried that my heart almost jumped out." "But you didn't tell me right away. Wait for me to ask you about the injury. I just want you to worry less and be happy. You are not doing this at all. We agreed to share our worries and joys together, you liar." Okay, okay, I was wrong. Yezikin tried to quibble, and just followed Ye Weiwei's words and bowed his head to admit his mistake. It sounds like he is being crushed by a little girl, but if others take a look, they can clearly see the doting and tenderness in Yezikin's eyes when he stares at Ye Wei. Then you can't do it again next time. Okay, I promise there won't be a next time. It sounds like you're not sincere at all. What I said is true. Marsya actually didn't go far. She stood not far away, watching and listening to the conversation and interaction between the two. It turned out that she rarely saw Yezikin showing a sincere smile. It turned out that Yezikin was really just laughing in front of Ye Weiwei. Suddenly I felt a little unwilling. The person who can make Yehantian happy is Hua Qinhui, and the person who can make Yezikin happy is Hua Qinhui's daughter Qiao Li. The father and son of the Ye family are obsessed with Hua Qinhui and Qiao Ling's mother and daughter as if they were possessed. Once this idea took root in Madame Ye's heart, it grew and climbed like a vine. No. Qiao Li and Yejia are not of the same mind. If Qiao Li is allowed to hold Yezikin's heart tightly, it will definitely affect the relationship between their mother and son. Gyu's governments are addicted to being addicted to the love of bamboo horses. You are my future wife, so I should kiss you. When she was 4 years old, he bit her on the mouth and kissed her for life. Shijan, who is cynical, is good at fighting and resisting. What he is best at is crawling through Yan Wuxi's window. Daughter-in-law, I am afraid that you will be lonely alone, so I will warm your bed. In Shijan's eyes, Yan Wuxi is just a soft rabbit, someone who makes him want to pet him just by looking at him. In Yan Wuxi's eyes, Shijan is just a wolf, a ruffian and a pervert. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 647. Chapter 647. Two men bid for a necklace. The falling incident was exposed, and everyone followed the clues and found out that Su Hui was a pregnant woman who had just given birth. Nightclub, is the woman named Su Hui who jumped off the building your mistress? Nightclub, you have a close relationship with Su Hui? Is her child yours? When Yehantian showed up at the company, he was immediately blocked by reporters. No matter how big Yejia is, it cannot cover the sky with one hand. The vast majority of people in S City are waiting to watch the show, and reporters are the first to bear the brunt. Yehantian has always been indifferent or expressionless since he appeared in front of the camera, and he sternly distanced himself from his relationship with Su Hui. Su Hui's daughter is dead, and no one else can verify whether Yehantian and Su Hui's daughter are related by blood. But someone revealed a rumor: Su Hui's daughter's surname is Ye. Yehantian doesn't have any close brothers or sisters, but he accompanied a woman to give birth to a child and named her Ye. Only a fool would believe it if he said they were not related. Nightclub, now that Su Hui's falling incident has been exposed, will it have an impact on your Yes group? What measures will you take to make up for the losses caused by this accident? The reporters kept pestering and the security guards were almost unable to stop them. Yehantian's secretary protected him all the way into the company. Yehantian made a quick decision: get ready, I want to hold a press conference. Only at the press conference, those people will behave a little better and listen to him explain things clearly. Of course, it doesn't matter whether those people believe it or not, what's important is that they make up a perfect reason to cover up the truth of the matter. Yehantian met an employee of the company while walking on the road. The employee nodded politely. When he passed by, Yehantian suddenly stopped, turned around and called to the person, "Wait a minute, is that magazine in your hand?" "Chairman, this is Paris Fashion Magazine." The employee handed the magazine out very sensibly. Yehantian took away the magazine and said softly, "Thank you." The employee was flattered and said, "You're welcome, you're welcome. If you're interested, just take a look." Yehantian quickly flipped through the pages and browsed a few times. Finally, He pointed at the gorgeous and exquisite necklace on the front page and told his secretary, "Buy this." Secretaries have many things to do, but the most important thing is to be obedient. Spend the shortest time possible to complete the tasks assigned by the boss. But his mission may fail this time. "Chairman, this necklace is sold in limited quantities, and now the last one is selected by another customer at the same time. The main store suggested that we negotiate or adopt a bidding model. There are many rich people in the world, and not everyone will like that kind of necklace, but if the one you choose is competed by other people, you will feel a bit competitive in your heart." Upon hearing this, Yahantian replied directly, "If the other party doesn't give up, then shoot. The other person may have the same idea and refuse to give up, so shoot it." The necklace, originally worth 6 figures, quickly became 7 figures. If you use this money, you can of course buy better necklaces, but some people like to compete. In the blink of an eye, the necklace reached 8 figures. "Chairman, it's already 10 million, and the other party refuses to stop. Do we still want to continue?" Yahantian hesitated for a while, then determined to get it. "Go on." But when the price continues to rise online, the cold night makes the face darken. "What is the identity of the other party?" "I'm not sure. I only know that the person's surname is Mo and his single name is Si." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 648. Chapter 648. The relationship between husband and wife comes to an end. "Contact Mosi, I will talk to him personally." Okay. Although Yahantian has money, he initially wanted to win or lose, but now, as a profit-oriented businessman, he is not willing to increase the price. Yahantian personally contacted Mosi, but the two could not reach an agreement. Mosi was not willing to talk to him at all, so he simply said, "Except for increasing the price, there is no need to talk about anything else." Moci's meaning is very clear. No matter how much it costs, he will definitely get your necklace. If Yahantian wants it, then spend more money than him. Yahantian was already in an irritable mood, and now he lost out to others when buying a necklace. He lost his temper in the office, but in the end he stopped looking at the necklace because of the price. Yahantian asked his secretary to buy a new valuable necklace. After getting the actual necklace back, Yahantian personally took it back and gave it to Madame Ye. Mrs. Ye was really amazed when she saw the gorgeous gem necklace. In the past, she would have been ecstatic about a gift from Yahantian, but now, there was only a slight ripple in her heart. Mrs. Ye took one look and pushed the box away, as if she didn't miss it. "It's quite strange. This is a gift for you. I know that you are going to hold a press conference soon. Don't worry. For the sake of Yes Group and Chenur, I know what to say and what not to say. As for this thing, I don't like it, so I gave it to you. What's your suhway? You're still angry with me? How can you do that? You are the chairman of Yes Group, and I, Mrs. Ye in name only, still take advantage of you." Mrs. Ye's words are clearly ironic. Yahantian felt helpless. It is indeed unreasonable for him to support Suhway, and now he needs Mrs. Ye to testify for him at the press conference to clear up his relationship with Suhway. Although he knew that Mrs. Ye would definitely help him safeguard the honor of the Ye Group for the sake of his son, it was appropriate to find someone to help him with things and give him some gifts. It's a pity that Mrs. Ye didn't accept it. They have been married for many years, but Yahantian doesn't understand her at all. It was as if Madame Ye wanted to refuse his gift now, and he didn't know what to say to coax her. Yahantian tried to get close to him, but Madame Ye also directly distanced herself from him. After Suhui's incident, the big fuss, and the thrilling encounter on the rooftop, Madame Ye's feelings for Yahantian have changed. Madame Ye stood up directly, looked at him condescendingly, and said, "Yahantian, we have known each other for so many years, and we all know what kind of person the other person is. There is no need for falsehoods. I only have one request. About me, Chen, I will keep an eye on you regarding your future. The relationship between husband and wife has come to an end. There is no love and not even jealousy left. Yahantian himself is a man with macho chauvinism, and what Madame Ye said seemed to challenge his authority as the head of the family. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. Yahantian tightened the necklace box, and the veins on the back of his hands popped out, showing the great exertion. As the press conference was about to be held, news of Su Hui's escape finally came from the hospital. Su Hui did not die, but survived, but her body was seriously injured. On the day of the press conference, Yahantian and Mrs. Ye arrived at the scene, and reporters swarmed them. The two people who have attracted much attention appeared in the public eye holding hands. The two behaved very intimately, and when talking to each other, everything they said and did was so natural. Don't you know Mrs. Ye's name yet? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 649. Chapter 649. I believe in my husband very much. Mrs. Ye, everyone said that Su Hui's lover who jumped off the building was outside the nightclub. What do you think of this matter? Mrs. Ye, why were you on the top of the building that day when Su Hui jumped from the building? How did you feel at that time? The reporter chased the couple inside, but fortunately the security guard stopped them. Yahantian holds Madame Ye in his arms, giving the appearance of a husband protecting his wife. The secretary opened a path for them from the back. Please enter in an orderly manner. Our chairman and his wife will explain the reason for this matter to everyone later. After Yahantian and Madame Ye entered the small room, they immediately let go of their hands. The softness on Mrs. Ye's face disappeared instantly. Have the arrangements been made for Su Hui? Reporters have been stationed outside the hospital. I have arranged for people to guard the outside of the ward so that no one can get in. Su Hui is not dead, so many reporters want to know something from her, but Yahantian has been guarding Su Hui's ward, and no one else is allowed in except the designated doctors and nurses. Yahantian straightened the collar of his clothes and reminded Madame Ye, be careful with your words on stage. Don't let those reporters take advantage of you. Those reporters have a very sharp perspective on issues, and they may be able to find countless loopholes with just a casual sentence. Once you make up this lie, there can be no mistakes. Madame Ye snorted coldly, it's all the mess you left behind. The press conference finally began, and Yahantian and Madame Ye took the stage hand in hand. There are many opinions about the recent jumping incident that caused a sensation in S City. My wife and I came to the press conference today just to tell everyone the truth. At this time, reporters took out their cameras to shoot videos or take various photos and quickly record key points. The general reason that Yahantian and Madame Ye finally weaved was as follows: they met a pregnant woman who fell down and gave birth prematurely. The couple kindly took her to the hospital. Although the baby girl was born safely, due to premature birth, she stopped breathing when she was in the premature baby incubator. The death of the baby girl greatly shocked Su Hui, a mother. When Mrs. Ye kindly sent supplements to visit, Su Hui regarded Mrs. Ye as the murderer of her daughter. From then on, the scene on the roof of the hospital happened. As for why the child's surname is Ye, because the child had to fill in a name when he was born, they did not know Su Hui's relevant information at that time and could not contact Su Hui's family, so they temporarily left the name. As for the claims of extramarital affairs, they are all rumors. The above is the whole story of the matter, which can withstand verification. My wife and I have a clear conscience. After they confessed the truth, Yahantian also issued a strong and soft warning. After today's press conference, Our Ye family will take legal action to hold those who deliberately spread false news accountable. Yes Group has a well-known name in S City. The reason reporters were so crazy this time was because the incident of Suhui jumping off a building was widely known, and they took this opportunity to get out of troubled waters. Once the trend changes, no one will dare to be innovative and stand out. The weather was so cold at night that reporters pointed the finger at MRS Ye. MRS Ye is what the nightclub just said the truth. There are rumors that the nightclub rarely goes home. Are you and your husband really as harmonious as they appear? Rumors stop with the whys. My husband and I have a very good relationship. While MRS Ye was answering calmly on the stage, Pei Yuchen and MOSI had already entered the scene. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 650. Chapter 650 MOSI and Madam Ye. You said there is a good show, and this is what you want to watch. MOSI looked at Ye Hantian and Madam Ye on the stage and raised his eyebrows. It's actually them. Do you know them, sir? MOSI shook his head and said, I have heard a little bit. MOSI was brought here by Pei Yuchen. Unexpectedly, it was a press conference, and the host of the press conference turned out to be Ye Hantian, who had bid for the necklace with him a few days ago. Pei Yuchen asked with deep meaning, Sir, do you really not know about the chairman and the chairman's wife of Yes Group? MOSI replied calmly and firmly, I don't know. However, a smart man like MOSI would not just answer casually. When he heard Pei Yuchen's question, he felt that things were not simple. Yi Chen, there is something in your words. Yes, because this Ye family is the biggest enemy of the Chiao family. Listening to their dramatic explanation is like watching a clown's performance. Isn't it a good show? I have never been involved in the feud between the Ye family and the Chiao family, and I cannot empathize with it. What does it have to do with me? I just know that my husband has recently stopped in S City, and I asked him to watch a play. Pei Yuchen explained calmly, and it was impossible to see that he had any other ideas. MOSI thought of the competition between Ye Hantian and him a few days ago. The reason he wanted that necklace was because he was entrusted by his brother. It was the brother-in-law who took a fancy to the necklace. His brother mentioned it and he took note of it. He has a good relationship with his brother. Since it was his brother who spoke, it would only cost some money, which was just a small matter to him. Thinking about it now, Ye Hantian should have given the necklace he wanted to the lady standing next to him. However, this matter has nothing to do with him. Ye Hantian explained the reason clearly at the press conference. When MRS Ye expressed her opinion about the new husband, the reporters asked endless questions. It was MOSI, who was still single, who said calmly, that chairman's wife has no emotion in her eyes. MRS Ye's expression when facing the camera can be regarded as lively, but what MOSI said without emotion means. When MRS Ye said she believed in her husband, she couldn't tell her sincerity. Pei Yuchen was slightly shocked. How can you understand that woman, sir? You don't know each other. You can understand some people just by looking at them. MOSI turned around and said this to Pei Yuchen inexplicably. Pei Yuchen took MOSI to watch the scene, but the scene soon ended. Ye Hantian protected Madam Ye as she walked out to the road, while MOSI and Pei Yuchen retreated to the side to avoid the crowd. On the way, Madam Ye suddenly turned her head and glanced to the right, and her eyes met with MOC's again. In the blink of an eye, MRS Ye had been escorted into the car by Ye Hantian, and the driver drove them both away. The scattered reporters began to call and send news. Ye Hantian had been making headlines one after another, and it was even worse today. In the car, Ye Hantian had already received the message from the hospital. Suhui woke up. The couple looked solemn. MRS Ye was the first to speak. I decided not to let her appear and talk nonsense. Ye Hantian was about to answer, but when he saw the next message, Ye Hantian was speechless for a moment. After examination by doctors, Suhui had mental problems. Meaning, when Suhui woke up, he was already crazy. Mrsya was very cautious, don't take it lightly. Who knows if that woman is playing some trick? She felt uneasy after thinking about it, and finally decided, I want to go and see for myself. End of this chapter.